can't fire somebody who's not good in the Marine Corps.
The only problem is that system's like 5-year mark, not the 5-month mark.
I'm not the smartest, I'm not the fastest, I'm not the strongest, but I promise you I'll work until the job's done.
And today I'm talking with a good friend of mine. Adam, welcome to the show, man.
Having faith in general can be really powerful.
Where did that come from?
Gosh, that's such a good question. Where did that come from? First off, you don't know if you want it or not. You'll find out though.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Die Hard Entrepreneur Stories. I'm your host, Devin Ramos, and today I'm talking with a good friend of mine. His name is Adam Whitney. If you have the pleasure of knowing him, you know he's always leading with value. He just recently retired with an honorable 20-year career in the Marine Corps. And during that time, he also built an extraordinary reputation as a real estate investor and entrepreneur, completing over 400 residential deals, acquiring over 40 million in assets, and raising over $10 million in capital to fund innovation and growth. He's co-owner of Blackjack Real Estate, co-owner of Titan Title, and the CEO of Seven Figure Flipping, the top real estate mastermind for serious real estate investors. Adam, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. When I heard you read that bio, I thought to myself, I need to get more focused. I'm doing too much crap. What's going on here?
That can't be a bad thing. You are a talented individual, and more importantly, you're very dedicated and hardworking. And I love it, dude. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on, Devin. I think this is really cool that you're doing this.
Yes, sir. How's the retired life been, man?
It's everything I thought it would be. I have the freedom to make decisions with my time, which is really important to me. And I think doesn't mean I'm not filling my time. It just means I'm deciding how to fill my time, which, it's pretty much exactly what I wanted it to be. I don't think it'll be as busy as it is now forever, but yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm happy. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for 20 years in the Marine Corps. What an incredible experience and opportunity. Like, I think back a lot too, man. It's such a shaping experience for so many people.
Yeah, for sure. And 20 years is, it's crazy. It is a long time. I can understand how it goes by in a blink of an eye, but it is a long time, 2 decades. Man, yeah, when you're in it. Man, thinking back, what motivated you to join in the first place?
I wish I could get on here and say it was patriotism, or, I had an awesome uncle or father in the military, but I actually was going down a pretty poor path, and I had got arrested for going into somebody's house and getting into a physical altercation. And a recruiter had been talking to me, but I wasn't, real serious about it until he said, well, maybe I can help you get out of trouble. And I was like, oh, really? Would you be willing to come to this court date with me? And he did, which they're actually not allowed to do. I found out later. And he basically negotiated a deal with the judge that instead of being in trouble, I could go serve my 4 years in the Marine Corps honorably, and they would wash it away they'd expunge it under this program called HIDA. And he said, the recruiter said, if you're willing to leave in 2 weeks, I'll help you do that. And then I went off. 2 weeks later, I went to a court date. They expunged, it was a home invasion and assault and battery charge, as I went into an ex-girlfriend's house and beat up her boyfriend, and, dumb young guy stuff. And then I went to the Marine Corps, and I thought this will be short lived. And then 20 years later, here we are.
How amazing. So that, the requirement, I guess, was 4 years originally.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So the judge, really cool story, actually. I take all this. I didn't really have any guide rails growing up. No clear example, no guidance, I just didn't know principles, values. I just never saw it in my life. So I was talented, and did well in school when I was focused on school. I did well at things when I did them, but I was just kind of lost doing stupid stuff. And take all that energy, put it into an organization that's as rigid as the Marine Corps, which you're very well versed in, with a common set of core values and a bunch of men who are great examples. And it took me a while. I was still a bit of a knucklehead as a young enlisted guy. But I started to do well in the military's eyes. A couple combat tours, and then went to a second station where I was teaching. Pretty common in the military. We go do, and then we typically spend some time giving back teaching. And this place I was teaching at, I was surrounded by all these like Marine officers, like hand selected captains, O3s, like mid-level leaders, and like the best of the best, man, like the best leadership I've ever seen to date. Some of these guys are all colonels now, like just incredible leaders. And it raised my game getting in that room with them. It just, everything about it got better. They encouraged me to apply to become an officer, go to college, do all this stuff. And I did that. And when I got commissioned as a lieutenant, I wrote that judge a letter back with a picture of me in my dress blues as an officer. And she actually wrote me back. And I said something to the effect of like, I'm sure you only see the bad outcomes. And I wanted to thank you for the second chance. And the rest is kind of history.
Wow. That's so cool, man. Did you end up keeping in touch with that recruiter as well?
Sergeant Watkins, no, I did not. It was kind of a send and forget type deal. So interestingly, there are requirements to get in the military, believe it or not. And I went to one recruiting station in Southgate, Michigan, close to where I live. And they were like, you got some stuff on your record. You got some stuff that's like not super clean. I wasn't like a full blown criminal or anything, but there were some things that were maybe I wouldn't qualify to get in. But they said, you know what? This guy up in Lansing needs to meet his quota. I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious, dude.
Yeah.
So they send me to this guy in Lansing, this guy named Sergeant Watkins. He's got to be long gone by now, so I'm not incriminating him. And he's like, done deal, buddy. I need to meet my quota. So, I had a tattoo. I had some tattoos. I used to have a whole like arm and had my name that I got. I was 16 years old. I got it in somebody's basement. My last name in Old English across my back. It's gone now. I got it removed, but it was a little too high on my neck as an example. And they were trying to screen me out for that. But this guy, he like shimmied my shirt up a little bit higher. Yeah. How it goes.
Oh, absolutely.
So fortunately, Watkins got me in, and I know it was kind of just a like, thanks for doing that. And then I never talked to him again.
Yeah. Cool. Well, regardless, beautiful story. I love that, man. Looking back, now from where you're at now in business, how has your career really influenced your approach to business and leadership? If there's like one big key takeaway, I'd be interested in knowing what it's been for you.
Yeah, I think probably two things. One, just like what is really required to execute leadership in a meaningful way, which is just a selfless devotion to the people you lead and the mission you're charged with. You spend time in the military, you have a deep level of belief towards the purpose and the mission. You're around for a while, you start to feel like, I don't know if it's that true, but looking back, like the purpose, the mission, the people you get an opportunity to lead they're incredible. They're incredible people. And I always found myself just like focusing on my people, my team that I had the fortune to lead. And it served me so well, man. I had so much success that it almost became just a part of who I was. Just give to the people. And I would always, as I became more senior and I was like had company command, and I always just would say, if you take care of the people will take care of the mission. So I just kind of turned my focus to focusing on developing my people, develop my own leadership so I could lead them well. And that has translated to business, albeit a little different.
How so?
Well, as you know, being a military guy yourself, you can't fire somebody who's not good in the Marine Corps. In fact, the way you look at it, here's the other thing, right? So we get these performance evaluations. We call them fitness reports, performance eval for all intent and purpose. And one of the things that you're required to do says this is your roles and responsibility in your job. One of the things that always says is you are responsible for everything your team or unit does or fails to do. And the burden of command of literally somebody could go out on a Saturday evening and get a DUI and you could get fired for it. Right. So it's like, that's how serious they take it. So when you have an underperformer, you're going to naturally look internal. What am I doing as a leader? What am I doing? What did I do enough to train them? Did I do enough to serve them? Did I make sure I helped them take care of their family? Like, there's so many things you're looking at in the military because you have who you have. That can be problematic, that approach in business, because when you look around the civilian sector and you got people doing this thing called quiet quitting. They show up to work, but they don't work and they're just waiting to be fired, which is a detriment to the people who are working on the team. So it kind of goes to the adage that, you hear people say on the internet and these people who have bigger businesses, hire slow and fire fast type deal. But that's a real thing. And that's a big burden of leadership on the business side of like letting somebody go who's relying on you to feed their family, to pay their bills, to do all that stuff, and having to balance that responsibility with leading an elite team, growing a business. You've got all these other A players. Like you have a responsibility to them to put them in the best position for the business to win, because you're holding them accountable to the real numbers in business, key performance indicators, OKRs, whatever. It's like, hey, we're not hitting a metric. Well, it's like, well, you got Susie over here who doesn't even show up. It's like your job is to put the right people in the right seats. And that can be pretty heavy, man. And that's different than the military, obviously, because you kind of just get who you get outside of maybe, a heavily screened unit like special forces or something.
Yeah. Get who you get and you don't throw a fit. That's what my oldest would say. You just actually kind of blew my mind because you just mentioned special forces, and you're absolutely right. Some units more so than others, a very high stress environment, high pressure environment, because you show up one day and you could be going home the next. Like, you get fired, anything from just not being very good at your job to shooting the wrong target. Like, it really depends on where you're at, but there's a very real thing. And it breeds competitiveness. I think it's good. There's good points there. As I started to transition out, I went into an environment that was more so what you just described, where you can't fire those people like that. And I have been beating my head against the wall probably the last 7 months because I have held on to quite a few people far too long, to the detriment of others even. And I'm like, man, what is going on here? And I never really thought about it in the way that you just said it, but that's a large portion of it, because the way I phrase it is, dude, I see the potential in them. I see the potential in them.
Well, and think about this, Devin, we promote people in the military based on potential, not on results they've gotten. You're literally getting promoted to the next rank, getting paid more money solely based on your potential. You have credentials, what you've done, and those credentials feed into what your future potential as a leader is. And you as a military guy are probably looking at these people on your team going, what have I done? Have I done enough to make them successful? And here's the real hard. You will have a pretty good performer. They do some things pretty well. They completely miss on other things. And the question you've got to be able to ask yourself is, if the human aside, is that the right person for that spot? Maybe you can put them in a different spot, or maybe you can let them go, or maybe you replace them. There's a lot of options to be had, but you have to determine, you have to take the person out of it, which is different from the military because it's all about the person. You take the person out of it and look at the business and the people around them and how it's affecting them, and go, man, that position, they're not doing terrible, but honestly, that position isn't being served because we don't have the right person in there. And that's the hard decision. Like, that's the hard one, when it's like, they're kind of good. They do some things really well, other things not so much. And just kind of lean on my principles for making those decisions and kind of my values.
That's so good, man. Yeah. When it's obvious, when it's a flop, it's super easy. So you're like, oh,
yeah,
no.
Totally.
Yeah, man, such good stuff. So what inspired you to get into real estate and business and all of that? Where does that come into play?
I think for me, it was like the minute I stopped feeling challenged, I just started to look elsewhere for a challenge. So as I did that, I started to discover this world outside of kind of my military bubble I was living in. And I started to see other people who were like me, but having achievement and success in different ways. Bill and other people that we know, Marcus, just like other people that were kind of like in and around me. I'm like, gosh, like these guys are like doing business and real estate. Then I become obsessive about learning like about freedom. Like how do I get freedom? Like how does a person get freedom? Right. And the truth is there's a lot of ways and you define it. But one of the unequivocal parts of getting freedom is playing the game that we're given, which is like, I got to be able to make money and provide for my family. So I have to figure that piece out. As I kind of looked at that, I was like, oh my gosh, like dude, in 2008, I did the Dave Ramsey Total Money Makeover. Literally, we're like putting cash in envelopes and paying bills and like counting dollars out and dollars in. Fast forward some years later, and I find this community called Financial Independence Retire Early. This thing called the savings rate, reduce your expenses, increase your income, invest the gap. If you do this well enough, you play this game with these numbers, like you can retire. You can be done working in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s. You don't have to wait till 67 years old. And I was like, oh man, this is so cool. So I'm just like obsessively learning about this. And then that leads to real estate, because real estate's a super powerful vehicle for building wealth, and it can make you go faster. And of course, like I want to go as fast as possible. I stumble into all the people I see doing real estate. I find Bill, I found out Dave Perret and all these other people we know. And I'm like, dude, I can do that. They can do it. I can do it. And then I just, got obsessed, jumped in, and a lot of just figuring it out on the fly, man. Lots of mistakes. And even though I had mentors, I think this is a misnomer. Like I joined masterminds, I got mentors. Like I still sucked at things and made mistakes. Like no matter what you see on the social media, everybody, you could tell me not to touch the stove, but I'll probably just want to see how hot it is.
I say literally the exact same thing. I say, I might not touch the stove for as long, or maybe not everything, but I'll still do it.
Let's just see how hot it is. So, that's like, went on that journey, obviously, sure had some success, totally had some flops. I had so many flops, more wins than losses, which is really the game to play. Right. But I had some losses. I had some stuff that was just ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, that's the game we play, right? Hopefully we have far more wins than losses, but if you have one more win than you do loss, you can come out on top, right?
Golden. Yeah. Golden.
I love it. So I think you started by purchasing rentals, similar to me. I started purchasing rentals. And then what really happens for you to go like full bore? And now you're like owner of this company. You've done over 400 transactions and flips, wholesales, novations, sub two, like everything.
Yeah.
What happened there?
I started doing like what most people do when they find real estate: save up some cash, like get my finances tight, save up some cash, buy a rental. Cash flows a little bit. You're like, oh my gosh, this is slow. Like it's going to take me forever. And then I honestly was just seeing other people, seeing different ways, like, seeing Bill, seeing people in mostly it was like other military entrepreneurs that were, because they were so much like me. And I'm like, dude, how is this guy making $1 zillion and has like all like, oh my gosh, what's he doing? So that attracted me to learn how to go get my own deals direct to the seller, turn and flip active fast money. which was its own journey. So I kind of got into that and sucked at first, took time, grinded, eventually started to kind of figure it out, then started to get traction, then got a lot of traction. And I was doing a lot, but I wasn't making a lot of money. I was spending too much, not making much. It looked like I was doing great, but I wasn't. Then you spend the next 12 months trying to dial it in to make it profitable, even though you're doing $1 million in a zillion deals. Is like to make $100,000 is like, oh my gosh, it's way too much work type deal. So along the way, I'm doing all these deals, right? 50, 60 in a year, whatever it may be. And, the real thing is, though, I started to gain skill. I was getting experience. I was gaining skill, business acumen, like being very good with my numbers, P&L, cash flow management, more leadership in business compared to the military, finding, everybody talks about hiring an A player. You think you know what an A player is because you believe you're an A player. But most people are not going to be you, especially when it's your business, right? Because nobody cares as much as you do. And you really can't see what a real, like a gem looks like until you have one. And then you're like, oh, that's what it looks like. I need like 10 of those. I need more people like that around me. So like, that's a lesson I learned along the way. And each time I learn something and like, quote unquote, figure it out, something gets better. Like I make more money, or I build better relationships, or I open up new opportunities. And because of that, like I'm gaining skill. I'm just very active doing it, getting some traction, figuring it out, eventually like getting certain things dialed in, join 7-figure flipping mastermind, which is kind of where this is leading to in 2020. That was a catalyst for almost probably 80% of my growth on the residential side. I mean, I just like, that was all I knew. I was in the room with Mike Simmons and Bill and Andy and just like Jesse and all these like people. I'm like, dude, how are you doing that? They tell me to do a thing and I just go do the thing. I probably break it, mess it up, and then, fix it. Right. That was kind of like what was happening over and over and over again. There's times I'm going, dude, am I just dumb? Like, why isn't this working the same way it's working for them? Like they must have figured something out, but it really was, you kind of got to go through it to figure it out. You just have to. So went through it and, gaining traction, building great relationships. Every time I go through it, the new rooms I get in, the people I build relationships with, more opportunities come for me. I try to give without expectation. And in doing that, people say like, hey, I'd like to work with you. So Bill in 23, I get an opportunity to buy equity in 7-figure flipping as one of the board members and owner. They were having some turnover. I bought the equity. I took the leap of faith. And of course, like that opens up new doors for me. So I can't buy that equity if I don't go through the things I went through in my real estate business. I can't go through the things I went through in my real estate business if I don't find Dave Ramsey in 2008. And then I can't buy the rentals if I haven't done the Dave Ramsey thing. Like, it's like all these things, they start to stack. And so I become a board member. Opportunity comes up that, hey, we need somebody to come in and do hard work and grind and improve something. It's like, dude, hard work, grind and improve something. Like that's what's on my resume, man. That's what I do. Right. I'm not the smartest. I'm not the fastest. I'm not the strongest, but I promise you I'll work until the job's done. So that's kind of what the MO is. And then everybody's like, hey, you would be a great fit to lead the 7-figure flipping community because you've poured into it so much. And they asked me if I wanted to do it. And I said, yeah. It was timing also. It's a timing component, right? Like I'm retiring. They want me to come right into this thing, be the CEO of the company, which by the way is like, I jump into this thing and I'm fighting above my weight class. So I haven't done that before with that kind of widget. Like I haven't led that kind of widget, that kind of model. I didn't know what I didn't know. And that's been a learning process. And I've been doing that for 6 months with 7-figure flipping. And we did good work. We grew the membership. We brought in good people, which was one of my goals. We got people in the room so that they could have growth and got the business, the 7-figure flipping as a business more efficient. And yeah, man, it's been really good. Just like all these things. I'm like reflecting for the first time now. You got me deep. You got me deep. Like, how did all this happen? I don't even know. I just woke up this morning and I had a bunch of crap going on.
Same as every day. I love it. No, but that's, that's some good wisdom, the way that you're looking at it. Hey, this couldn't happen without this, being able to see that stuff. I love it. And if I had to guess, it allows you to continue to grow in faith. One of our family core values is to walk by faith. I don't mean like blindly, but by faith. And it tends to become strengthened when we can reflect back in the past and see like, yeah, no, I continued down this road last time or a road much similar. And I don't know what it looks like, but I know this is where I need to go. I'm just going to keep going. And then, one day you wake up, like you said, and you're like, oh, how did I get here?
Man. Yeah. Yeah. Like faith is that's such a good word. Like I can think of, even when I'm 19 years old and I have faith in going down the military path and faith in doing the next thing. And just having faith in general can be really powerful.
Love it. So with all the single family deals you've done up to this point, what would you say is like one of the really prominent lessons that either, kind of like smacked you in the mouth or like just like one of the big ahas that you had that you maybe didn't expect, or just one that sticks out to you?
Yeah, dude, I got my lunch eaten on a bad flip this past year. We bought a house just outside of kind of our market over the border. I'm typically in the Panhandle of Florida. Buy something over the border in Alabama. Just the data, the numbers are like sparse, and we're extrapolating, and we're like, well, looks like it's going to be a good deal. The data's not super tight, and we make a decision with data that's really unsubstantiated. Get into this flip, try to do a quick one, not a good high quality flip, try to get in and out. Sits on the market for 12 months, chase the market down, start at 460. By the end of 12 months, I'm at 360. Like I got like $400K in debt on this thing at that point with interest, and end up like I have a decision to make. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, like tactical mistakes, even this far into the journey. But the decision I have to make is I can just sell it and cut my losses, which is something that happens in the industry. You have to do it sometimes. Or I can refinance it. And instead of just handing over, $90,000, $100,000 to some new buyer and they get the equity. And by the way, it appraised at like 408. So there's equity. I end up refinancing it for 325 and bring about 90K of my own cash to close. So now I that money's not gone. It's in equity. It's just not in my bank anymore. And I try to go long-term rental route just so it's not a headache, and ended up making it a short-term rental, which I've never done before. So got to learn a little bit on that subject, and now that's where I'm at with it. That one burns because it was such a big one. I've only ever had one other loss. I lost 13K on a flip, which wasn't the end of the world, but, 2 losses and hundreds of deals is those are the two. I can tell you Shady Canyon, loss number 1, Canal Circle, loss number 2. I know those houses all too well.
Yep. I'm right there with you. And, it burns for sure. When you look at it, 2 out of hundreds of deals, meh. So I can totally see where you're coming from.
We'll survive.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good, man. What would you say are like the most common bottlenecks that prevent investors that are just really going at it, trying to hit that 7-figure mark or, scale whatever is commensurate to that 7-figure mark, but they're trying to grow? What would you say are the most common bottlenecks that you see that prevent them from growing?
Well, I think it's like, I think it's like you start doing it and you can see this like, oh, I want this 7-figure business. First off, you don't know if you want it or not. You'll find out though. I see this 7-figure business and you're on like day one and you're trying to build your year 2 business instead of like trusting the process, right? Um, you don't just get a 7-figure business. That's not how the world works. Like you're going to go earn it every day. There's tactics, there's marketing tactics, there's sales, there's operations, and you can't master it on day one. Like you can't. You need repetition. Like Devin, have you ever done anything that you become an expert at and not had a ton of repetition?
Yeah, not possible. No.
That's how you think about. Yeah, like you think about like, oh, you got good shooting a rifle in the military. Well, you didn't do that the first time you picked it up. You did it over years of training and thousands of rounds shot through that weapon system. Like you can't become an expert without that repetition. So just focus on what you have to do day one. And then on day 2, focus on what you have to do. This was like a problem I had. And I remember Steve and Casey Tackett were coaching me. They're like, you're just too crazy. We're going to bring in this other guy who does a similar model to you. And then he can talk to you because maybe you'll listen. And this guy tells me, dude, you are worried about all the wrong stuff. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, you need to focus on like the here and the now. Get to a bottleneck, solve the bottleneck, get to the next bottleneck, solve the next bottleneck. Stop trying to build the whole thing up front. That's a fool's game. And when I kind of let go of some of that control and just started to trust the process more, then I started to get the traction in my business that I needed to get to the goal, which the goal that I had on day one was not the same. It's not the same goal that I have today. You know, that changed, and it's not always more. For me, it's actually less.
Man, I'm definitely a culprit with rigidity on that. So I've done it a few times that I can think of distinctly, and I still fall into this trap where, you know, maybe we're building something out. Like I'll use a system or a process as an example, because usually that's where it happens. But I'm so long-term focused. I'm like, no, we can't do that because the system's not sustainable. The only problem is that system's like a system for the 5-year mark, not the 5-month mark. Yeah. And so I'm over here like putting these false constraints on us. And like, everybody's like, well, why don't we just do more of this? Cause it's working. And I'm like, cause it's not sustainable. Like, yeah, but we need money now.
You're solving problems that don't exist.
Yeah, dude. So when you said that, it hit me. I was like, oh, that's so good. I did it the other day. I did. Sometimes in our cleaning company, I get really strict with our offer and what we're willing to do and not do. People are like, hey, listen, I get it. It's more efficient. But like, also we're right here. We're not like right there yet. We can clean it up. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you guys are right. I gotcha.
Yeah. It goes back to what you said about just, you know, kind of having faith, man. Like have faith and, you know that it's a process. Everything is like, so you have to go through something to get somewhere. Like it's just like how it is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know I don't know too many entrepreneur stories where it's like, I woke up on Tuesday and decided I was going to be successful. And on Thursday, boom, successful. Look at all my Instagram reels.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I had the pleasure of getting to interview awesome entrepreneurs like yourself. And every time I see somebody that seems like they're a new entrepreneur, when I dig into their background, it's like they either were an entrepreneur before, I just didn't know that, or they're like doing all these things that are the same skills that you have in entrepreneurship. They just look slightly different. And it's like, so it's a myth, man. Like nobody's an overnight success. That's not a thing. They've been putting in the work some way, shape, or form that is either the same or very similar.
Yeah, always. That's just, I mean, because they're getting repetition, which is they're building skill. And then as you build skill, you see new opportunity, you find more efficient opportunities, you make better decisions because you understand capability better. There's so much that goes into it. It is a journey. I was talking to somebody yesterday, super hungry, eager, young lady, former military, like wants to do like wholesaling or flipping, and she's like just banging her head against the wall. Lady, you're not going to look like I do this year. Like you are not going to look like we look this year. It's not. You can get there faster for sure using, getting in mentorships or whatever you decide to do with your time. But it's a process. You got to be willing to go through the process. If you're not willing to go through the process, like I'm not even sure you should go down this route.
That's good. Good wisdom. So you got a title company. Where's that come into play? What was the move on that? And if you could share a little bit of where you're at with that, how those things are going.
Well, I'm talking to a guy who's 5 chapters ahead of me, Kyle Robinson, who Kyle's this like mega agent, 70, 100 agents on his team, doing tons, 400 to 700 retail transactions a year. He's got a mortgage brokerage. He's got a roofing company. He's got like all these vertically integrated things in his business. And, again, I'm in the room. I start to see what he's doing, and my eyes get open to vertical integration, making money up and downstream on the same transaction, right? Like 30 something different entities can make money on a real estate transaction. So one of my biggest bottlenecks and frustrations was title. Like, you know how it goes. Like they're not ready to go. They didn't get the right document. They have an opportunity to just muck up the deal. And most of the time they're good, but when you need them, they seem to make mistakes. So I got this title company in the Panhandle, Pensacola Heritage. We had done like 300 transactions with them. The title girl we typically work with leaves. We send a file to them. They go, yeah, we can't do this. We don't know how she did that. Like, oh my gosh.
Overnight.
Right. Oh. So like now I go, man, I got all this exposure. So it kind of seeds this like need to solve this constraint, this unknown that I don't control. So I start to talk to other title company owners and seeing how it works, like what's the revenue look like what all that kind of stuff. And everybody's telling me you won't be able to start a title company. I'm like, why not? They're like, well, you're not a licensed title agent. You don't have the experience, and underwriter will never approve you. I'm like, oh, okay. We'll see.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. Then I become like kind of, okay, let me see about that. Figure out, have some meetings, talk to an underwriter, go, I think I want to do this. So here's the math. Okay. Our title company makes about $2,200 gross per transaction. Small number, not a lot of money. People think, all these fees on my closing, it's so much money. It's like $2,200 to the title company. It's not a lot. I start asking title owners how much they're making. So I kind of figure out where the number is. And I go, how many transactions are in the state of Florida a year? 450,000. Okay. So if I have 5% of the market share in the state, I would be a $50 million company. That's 25,000 transactions. I'm like, gosh, that's pretty scalable. And then I'm thinking about, well, it's hard to scale my business I'll do 50. In a good year, I'll do 100 transactions on a flip or wholesale or whatever. But what if I could just work with everybody doing deals and I could do thousands, right? So that's like, boom, big kind of thought there. Of course, that's not how it works. It turns out title's a big time relationship business. I can't just run ads and get new clients. And there's all this nuance to it. So we decide to launch, we get approved. We launch our title company August of 2023. We do 1 transaction. Here's the other part. 2023, October, interest rates are at 8%, most constrained the real estate market had been in a very long time. So now I'm looking at the landscape. Title companies are closing their doors. There's more talent available. And I'm thinking, well, if we start in the storm, when we come out of the storm, it's going to be smooth sailing. My strategy was to hang my hat on investors first, because even in a down transaction market, investors are still buying because they choose their buy price. Mm-hmm. So and then plus I have my own company. I can run my own transactions through it. And then I can control my own deals and make sure less deals fall out and make more money. So we do that. First transactions happens in August of 2023. Then we do 3, then we do 4, then we do 6, then we do 8, then we do 8, then we do 10. And basically 2024 is our first full year in business. We did about 300K top line, with, I would have to look, but we didn't make a ton of money. We were barely profitable, in year 1, but it's like, it's going to take time to scale. And then there's this whole like throughput capacity issue, right? So I had people issues. I had the wrong person, then I got a new person, and then I overworked that new person and didn't get her any help. And she's like, I'm leaving. And I'm like, oh my gosh, don't leave. And I bring somebody else in, it's the wrong person. Then I get somebody new. So like this is all happening in just 12 months, right? Eventually I get settled on it. This like I move somebody from Blackjack into the title company who I trust. She's a good operator. She knows what she's doing. She doesn't know title entirely, but she did transactions, so she knows enough. She goes over there, she gets licensed. So she's like piece number 1. And then I get this other lady who's phenomenal. So now I got this triad, this team. You need a 3-person team to run the planned transactions. Of course, with that comes increased salaries, which squeeze my margin. But now I'm postured. I could do 2.5 times the transactions I did. I did about 10 a month. I did about 120 transactions year 1. So now I can do 2.5. I can do 300 transactions. I don't need more personnel. My expenses stay the same. I can 2 or 3x my revenue and create margin. And that's kind of where it's at. So now we're on this journey of client acquisition, like how build more relationships, bring more people into the title company and grow it.
I love it, man. So yeah, that's been a journey in and of itself, all on the side.
Yeah. But it goes back to skill development, right? Like my skills are increasing because I can see different, I've already solved some business problems, and then now I have 2 businesses and I'm solving problems on 2 fronts. Then I take over 7-figure flipping as the CEO. And all along the way, you can't just do this yourself. You've got to be putting good people in place. So I'm getting good people in place, and every day I'm getting better at what I do because I'm getting repetition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can run the play quicker. You can run the play more efficiently. Like you start to see things as they're unfolding and kind of tell what's about to happen because you've already seen it before. That makes sense for sure. That's good.
And this is why, also I would just say, like, this is why people give up and quit too early. They're like, it's not working or it's hard. Like, yes, it is hard. You will have stretches where you feel like it's not working. And on the other side of that play is like figuring it out. Like you figured it out and you learn what works, what doesn't work, that whole kind of apparatus. So
yeah, for sure. You made a comment in the beginning. You said when I introduced you, it sounded like you're doing like a bunch of different things, right? Do you think right now, just kind of reflecting, do you feel like you're doing too much? Do you feel like you're all over the place, or do you kind of stand by where you're at right now?
Yeah, I think I'm in a good spot, mostly because of people who are around me. My focus is developing other leaders. So whether that's the title company or Blackjack or 7-figure flipping, and then while obviously improving my own skills as a business acumen, but like if I'm having a conversation with somebody in title, it's not that different than 7FF or wherever.
Sure.
It's a people conversation. It's an efficiency conversation. It's a P&L conversation. It's a marketing conversation. It's all kind of the same kind of stuff, it's leadership development stuff. It's not, it's becoming less tactical, I guess.
That's good. Yeah. All very similar industry as well. I mean, even though 7-figure flipping's an education business, still around real estate, right? So a lot of it's real estate related. Would you agree?
Yeah. And I mean, frankly, like most of my business acumen came from being in 7-figure flipping. Like that's where,
that's
where I'm in the room with whether you're flipping a house or it's you guys in Clarksville or somebody else somewhere, it's like I'm learning from all these other business owners, and I'm seeing experiences, firing too slow, hiring too fast. I'm watching people make mistakes. So like that's all going in my experience bank too. And that has let me do a lot of this a lot faster than I would ever do on my own.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, you're right in the thick of it for sure. You'd mentioned earlier, you said, I give without expectation. Did you develop that over time? Because I see that for sure. I think anybody that knows you sees that. But is that something that you developed over time? Was there like, is it just who you are? Is there like intentionality behind it? Where did that come from?
Gosh, that's such a good question. Where did that come from? Probably some scar tissue from my upbringing, maybe some abandonment. My mom was like drug addict and absent from my life, would like supposed to come get me, not show up. And I just developed this like desire for acceptance and like care of people, maybe just because I felt it was absent in my life. And that's just kind of how I've always operated. I've just always been, somebody who just cares deeply about people. And that is important to me. And frankly, man, like I don't ever expect anything back, but I always get like, it fills my personal cup to help people. So, it's not like I don't get anything. I always get something from giving. And I have a high desire to do that. And it makes me feel a way and I like it. So that's what I do.
That's good. That's good. What about multifamily? What are have you learned any hard lessons or maybe some different lessons that you didn't learn in single family side or title side so far?
Yeah, multifamily is a long game. A little bit. It's like mid-range Rip Hamilton type game to long game. Actually I learned the skill sets are different to acquire big commercial assets, a lot of underwriting, a lot of projections and risk analysis. And it's just kind of a different set of skills. Definitely a team game. Very, very few people are doing multifamily by themselves. So like you've got to have a great team with different skill sets. We've had a ton of success, frankly. So I haven't had a whole lot of scar tissue from multifamily, and we don't have enough time in market. I'm sure some scar tissue is coming at some point, but we acquired great assets. We got great deals. All of our stuff is performing. We're hitting or beating projections on everything we've purchased since the last couple of years. So yeah, it's just a long game. It's a different skill set. It's a team sport. Those are the like big takeaways from multifamily for me. That was also the reason, like when I first kind of got into real estate and I get into the war room and I'm seeing people do all these different things. I'm like, what do? I tried a little multifamily. I didn't like how long it was. I liked the thrill of the deal, kind of pushed me to single family. And then once I built skills, I came back to multifamily.
That's good. I think, unintentionally, I've done very similarly where you said the thrill of the deal. I love it. I love acquisitions, man. I love it. I love how fast the feedback loop is. Like there are some deals like, I got an appointment today. I've been talking to this guy for like a year and a half. So that's a little bit longer, right? But, most deals are a lot faster. And so that feedback loop, like you can close it, whether it's a lost deal or, a $60,000 wholesale, like it's a lot faster feedback loop. So you're like, okay, now what did we learn? Let's do it again. And yes, it seems like you don't get that on multifamily as frequently or as quickly.
No, definitely not. Like we bought 2 apartments in 2023. Both were like long-term conversations. And then we only bought 1 apartment in 2024. Again, another kind of longer term conversation. It's just not very fast. It's happening over time. Lots of due diligence, lots of underwriting, lots of, like risk mitigation stuff. Of course, there are multifamily teams out there who are going fast, who are more risk seeking than we are. We're pretty conservative. So we kind of slow our own game down. We have a very tight underwriting model. We have a very tight buy box, where we'll buy, what the returns have to be. And it's pretty emotionless for us. So like either does or does not, which is probably the reason why we've only acquired 3 in the past like 18 to 24 months. So
yeah, maybe a little more conservative than like whatever group you compare them to that's going fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we're younger too. Like we're not, the raise to syndicate these isn't $25 million. It's like 3 million for a deal, 7 million for a deal, 5 million for a deal. And so a little smaller, a little bit more mom and pop.
For sure. Okay. So a lot of, we've talked about it, like a lot of external struggles, some tactics and things like that, some struggles, some failures. But internally, so far in this journey for you, is there anything that you've really struggled with that stands out to you? Like, I don't know, a specific fear or anything like that you really like seen some triumph over?
Yeah, man. Different fears at different times, for sure. Probably the thing that I've been tackling most recently is the fear of success. Well, it's almost like, when things go well, you start to have destructive mindsets. Like, do I deserve this? Is this going to all like things go well? You're thinking like, oh, the bottom's going to drop out tomorrow. Something has to go wrong. You get these like survival mechanisms that kick in, and it's like, and then there's like internal doubt of like, do I deserve this? Am I enough? And, why me type deal. So yeah, man, I don't know if I have triumph over any of that yet. It's a lifelong endeavor and journey.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, I totally get that. Almost like you're looking, I can be a skeptic sometimes. So I'm like looking, I'm like, all right, where's the trap I'm about to step in? It shouldn't be this good.
Yeah, exactly.
then I'll make one.
Exactly. You have to like really prevent yourself from doing stupid stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. All right. So, you're now, as you mentioned earlier, CEO of 7-Figure Flipping. What, you'd mentioned some amazing changes you guys have made earlier. What's on the horizon? What do you look forward to most with that company moving into 2025?
Yeah, a couple things. I would say the first thing is like the company's already amazing. Like literally collection of the best house flippers, wholesalers, buy and hold investors. But what stands out, probably the reason that attracted me to the community and maybe you, is just the character, the quality of the people. That makes all the difference. So I feel really good about that already. What I'm most looking forward to is 2 things. One, what we're doing with the 7-Figure Foundation, which isn't even mine. Like it's not 7-Figure Flipping. It's its own thing, but it is a part of the fabric of who we are. Last year, the foundation, kind of doing the math, impacted about 11,000 lives. Everything from building houses in Costa Rica to Tijuana to domestic projects in Kentucky, even as small as building beds for kids in Baltimore. We went and worked with Sleep in Heavenly Peace in Baltimore. And I think you guys were at that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like these guys, then you find out there are thousands of kids who don't even have a bed to sleep on. So for me, that's where I'm excited to put my energy behind. How can we take all this good stuff in spite of the challenges that we do as entrepreneurs and translate it over to the impact that we can have with our treasure, our time, and our talents in the 7-Figure Foundation. And then the second part of this is the Teenage Tycoon program that we have, where basically we looked around and it's like, man, schools are teaching some of this, but not enough. Like kids don't know what's possible because schools are only showing them what they're showing them. And nothing against schools. My kids go to school, public school. They excel. They do great. They learn a lot. Like, I'm not saying that that's the case. What I'm saying is they don't see what their options are. They see a path. Their path is to show up every day, Don't miss a day because the school misses funding. Do the work, which is a good lesson, get good grades, good lesson, apply to a college, get into a college, get a job. Okay. Like that is the primary path that's being shown to our kids in school. And so Teenage Tycoon starts as a mastermind for kids 12 to 18. And it's just opening their eyes. Number one, it's teaching them how money works, like financial fundamentals, like understanding how the system of money works, how interest works, how all these things that you don't really wrap your head around. Then it's showing them what's possible as entrepreneurs, and everything from day trading stocks to flipping couches to having an eBay store to building potato guns. Like Russell Brunson came on and talked to kids about building potato guns and selling information on the internet. Like, here's how to be an info marketer. Like, and they're just seeing, it's not even about like, oh, I learned this very tactical thing. It's about seeing what's possible for them so that they go into their lives and have all the opportunities in front of them and genuinely know what is possible. So really excited about that. My son, Alex, is participating in that. And then, just getting more kids in there and helping to make a bigger impact. Total passion project. It's not like a revenue generator for the business or anything. Right. It's just all about impact. For me, 2025 is all about impact. Like, what impact can we create with the platforms that we have?
That's good, man. A lot of good stuff there. I look forward to seeing it all unfold. So we wrap up here. Where can our listeners connect with you, stay up to date with what you're doing, and check out, more in depth of what you got going on?
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram, official Adam Whitney, or Facebook, active on both of those. Or check us out at sevenfigureflipping.com. Or if you want to get involved in our foundation and go on like an impact trip and build houses somewhere, or just even donate, go to sevenfigurefoundation.com and help us make a big impact in 2025.
Right on. All right. I will make sure I drop that in the show notes. Y'all heard it from the man. Adam, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. I've truly enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. All right. Till next time.